Welcome to Art Ed Radio, the podcast for art teachers. This show is produced by the Art of Education, and I'm your host, Tim Bogatz. Odds are you've come across a story in the last week or so that seems too ridiculous to be true. The story of the art teacher in Utah who was fired for showing his students famous artworks, some of which happen to have nudity. Today, that art teacher, his name is Mateo Rueda, is here to talk with me about the whole situation and give us some insight as to everything that has happened. Now, I'll let Mateo explain so you get the correct story, but I'll just say this. I can't imagine going through what he has had to go through. This is every art teacher's nightmare. You preview materials, but something slips through the cracks. You do your best to explain to your kids, and you use the opportunity to educate, as all good art teachers do. But for some reason, that's not enough. And even though it should blow over, it doesn't. Parents play up the outrage, administrators don't stand up for their teachers, and it just snowballs from there. And then before long, you've lost your job. It's unfathomable, to be honest. But somehow, it's exactly what happened to Mateo. So I want to let him tell his story, share his reactions to all of these events, and all of these just unimaginable situations, and kind of let us know where he goes from here. So let me bring him on now. And Mateo Rueda is here with us, and I'm very excited to talk to you, Mateo. Thank you so much for coming on. To start off with, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself? You know, where you're from, how long you've been teaching, anything else you want to tell us about, you know, your family or your life outside of school?
Yeah, of course. I am originally from Colombia, and that's my hometown. I lived there for 25 years in Bogota, and I grew up in a good family overall. My mother is a professor. She teaches at an engineering school back home, and I grew up very passionate for the arts. Mostly, I love drawing and painting. So I went ahead and pursued a bachelor's in fine arts back home in Bogota. That led me to come here to the United States to pursue an MFA in fine arts, a master's in fine arts with in here, my uncle. He's a music professor here at Utah State University. And I guess that can speak a little bit about how inherently I do enjoy being an educator. I guess it's in the blood, you could say, but at the same time, it's just a wonderful endeavor. So, yeah, Cache Valley and teaching over here, there's a bit of under demand for teachers, especially art teachers, when it comes to it. And I am grateful that I was hired to teach at Lincoln Elementary. There is this program called the Beverly Taylorson Art Learning Program, and it's amazing. They are capable of getting about 60% of elementary schools. They are capable of getting an art teacher in these schools, and also with a coherent learning program for the arts, which is very important at that early stages of life. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about me. I'm an artist in general. Part-time, I'm an artist. I love working for the community, for people, showing my work in festivals, art galleries. I really liked that dynamic of being able to connect with people through my work. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and I think it's really good to hear about, you know, your passion for teaching, your passion for art, because, you know, I think that's a sign of a good educator right there. But, you know, we need to kind of dive into kind of the story and everything that's happened to you. And so I guess kind of to begin, can you set the stage for everyone listening? Can you tell us about the lesson you were teaching, what you were teaching, what you wanted kids to do, and how they ended up looking at these art history cards with the nude paintings on them?
Yeah. Essentially, the setup for an art specialist in public elementary schools is it's rather short in the amount of time you get. You get about 40 minutes per class and per grade, and I teach from K to 6. So they enter the classroom, and you get about 5 minutes to settle them, and then maybe 5 to 10 minutes at the end of the class for them to clean, meaning that you get a maximum of 30 minutes really to address the classroom, to actually have like some workshop going on, a studio environment happening. And throughout that time, they were working on a color wheel. Essentially, they were understanding color theory. They would only get some oil pastels, which were the colors red, blue, and yellow. And from there, they would have to define secondary colors and then tertiary, which is a fun experiment. Once they're done with that, they had to choose an image from these postcards that were very convenient to have, in a sense, because they were able to select one and keep it with them for their sketchbook. And this was close to the end of the class, probably the last 10 minutes, when one of the students manifested that they were feeling rather uncomfortable about the type of images that were there. And there were a couple that had nudity on them. I think mostly they were confused, and we need to understand. They saw the images and they were mostly confused, I can say. And I realized at that moment that I needed to do something. I mean, I think any adult, when they are presented to this situation that you all of a sudden are having kids showing nudes, it you know, like showing that they have been witnessing this, and you want to explain what's going on, and not just maybe try to just, you know, like say, no, this is wrong, and period. As a role model for these kids, as an educator, I definitely felt the necessity of explaining the nature behind these images, and mostly lead them to understand that they should not understand this as something to frown upon and deem it as shameful, because that felt like that was what they were kind of saying, for sure.
I think what, you know, you're trying to tell the kids is, yeah, like you said, it's not something to be ashamed of. And, you know, I think you make a good point when you say, as educators, we need to tell them, you know, why this is taking place in art, you know, what the reasoning behind it is. And, you know, you do want to set an example of how to handle that in a mature way. So let me ask you this, like, do you feel like kids accepted your explanation or your answers well enough? And second part of that, like, once class was over, did you kind of expect that to be done? Like, once, you know, kids left class, did you feel like your explanation about the images was going to be the end of it?
No, I told the students that they should be able to talk about this with their parents. To a point, I was also thinking about myself, like, if I just choose to not do anything about it, right? And they talk to their parents, that could get me in trouble, because that means that I would be, like, one way or another hiding something. Mm-hmm. And then I think, again, this is a question that any adult needs to ask themselves about what they would do. The way I approach the students, and I always have, is in a very genuine manner. I, of course, I'm a voice of authority when it comes to managing the classroom and whatnot. And children are children. You need to keep order. And it is a skill, for sure, a one that, you know, I exercise well, and they respect that. So when it comes to it, I approach to them in a genuine manner. And I think they understood what I meant to say. Some students did, some students didn't. It just happens. Just as you explain anything, you want to be thorough, but at the same time, being such a delicate subject, you do want to, definitely try to convey a point. But interpretation happens, and the kids probably had some set of preconceptions too, when it comes to these types of images. If I'm not wrong, especially in Utah, when it comes to children being exposed to these types of things in an academic setting, especially in high school when they're looking at art, they do actually have to sign some type of consent about it. And it's always controversial. I remember in college in Utah State University, it was also rather controversial to teach some of the students figure drawing. You would have a nude model, but some of them would actually still, one way or another, react one way or another immature. And I know BYU has a bunch of controversies about some exhibitions and whatnot, and it's rather stupid in my opinion. Yeah.
No, and I guess my next question, like having to do with that mindset and where you're located, do you feel like that kind of escalated the disciplinary process? Because, I've kind of seen some conflicting reports about what happened, what caused things to escalate, where you started with a short suspension, that suspension got longer, and eventually you got terminated. And so can you talk about, I guess, how things continued to get worse for you and what you think caused that?
Of course. Parents emailed the principal. The principal emailed me. So I went the next day, and I was in what is called a temporary administrative leave for one day. Mm-hmm. I guess while they try to figure this out. The only thing I could tell the principal is like, hey, this images were presented, they just showed up in the situation that I tried to handle. They don't agree I handled it properly, but I did my best to the best of my values, to the best of my faculties and criteria. And again, as someone considerate about these kids and how they felt. So I stated my point of view to the principal, but essentially that was it. From there on, then the next day I was called again, and this time with HR, and we agreed, to the fact that maybe I could have managed it better. To a point, I was like, well, and with all this scrutiny from the parents and whatnot, I just want to move on. And they gave me a 3-day momentary leave, which was signed in contract. Now, that's where I was like, okay, that's it. See you guys next Tuesday. Mm-hmm. But I think that same day or the next day on Thursday, the police arrived to the school and they were investigating a anonymous call from one of the parents about me being exposing the children to pornographic material. And that's where, then I get a call from the principal, and I went there and talked with her again. And she told me that temporary leave now was undefined. And I was like, okay, well, this truly sucks, and it's concerning because these are very serious accusations, mm-hmm. and it's scary one way or another. Then again, when I was here at home, I was thinking like, well, really, if the police had something true, but they would already be here, and I would already be somewhere else. But it was scary, and at the same time, I was bewildered. I was like, what the hell is going on?
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, the next day in the morning, I get a call from HR, and they just told me that I am being terminated. The only thing that I could ask there was like, if this actually reside in the realms of what is just. And they said they felt that they had enough grounds for that to be that. So it was at that time, and then again, I talked with my wife, and at that moment, my mother-in-law, who also has had like her experience with lawyers and whatnot, told me, yeah, let's go get a lawyer. Let's talk about this, and we'll see what happens. And so that same day, they sent me my termination. papers, and it's just this letter that it's so harsh in its language, and what happens is that this is a professional case file for me. This is something that can definitely follow me for the rest of my life when it comes to me applying for other forms of education. I want to move forward in my career, and I believe I have a lot of opportunities when it comes to being an educator, formally speaking. So that can definitely leave a very tainted background, and it was something that I needed to handle, and it was not easy because what do you do there, right? Like you're like, well, we do not accept these terms. And that's what we did. We told the district we do not accept these terms, and they weren't like, we're going to go ahead and continue with your termination, and you have the right for a hearing. So at this point, I am very depressed. I guess I like just being like, again, like, how can they get away with this? It's not fair at all. And luckily, one of the parents contacted me through Facebook, and she expressed that her daughter was in the classroom, that she heard my explanation, she understood it very well, and that for her, she finds that she is not capable of giving her an explanation on why her art teacher is being just removed. And to me, that actually gave me some sense of hope about maybe being able to establish a better case about what happened. And so I wrote to her a letter, a little long, but it also helped me to clarify the set of events, how things happened, how I felt, and everything in a sense. So it was helpful for me, and I'm glad that she was someone like-minded and definitely decided to do something about it, which I admire, and I'm sure it's a good lesson, for her daughter to learn about tenacity and conviction about what one holds to be true in a rational manner for that matter, because all of this has been rather irrational, to lack of a more how do you say it, like word, because it goes into something that was very interesting was that this ended up at the front page of Reddit, in one of the subreddits of Not the Onion. I don't know if you
yes
but it speaks about the ridicule. It speaks about how nonsensical this is. So yeah. After that, I guess the fact that she spoke to the Herald Journal, and that led to enough drag for people in the Valley to gain awareness of the situation, led to Fox News, Fox 13 and Channel 2 to interview me. And I think that was really the big surprise for everyone, and it really led to a more controversial, rather sensational type of scope towards the district and the Valley. So it was interesting for sure. As I said, it was interesting, but also at the same time kind of saddening for my name to make part of such ridiculous news, instead of me being recognized for my work.
Absolutely.
I like the attention. I like the attention for what I do, but not the attention for these types of matters. Of course not.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And, I'm sure it's been just like a whirlwind last month for you. You've talked about, just this nonsensical happening, your frustration, your depression. But can you talk about just kind of, your emotions through that whole disciplinary process, and just kind of let us know how you're feeling and how you're doing at this point in time?
Yeah, of course. I think a concurring problem with small towns like this in the United States is that, in a sense, people who have an alternative point of view against like the cultural mainstream, and that includes Mormonism in a huge chunk, Um, they might feel that they don't really belong to any place here, and that can lead to serious levels of depression and anxiety. And I think for the first time, because I'm someone who's not from here, I've been here for 6 years now in the United States, and I would always just, like one way or another, be baffled by what people would tell me about the culture in general. Like, well, this is how people do perceive art, or this is how people wear their underwear, their holy sacred underwear, and you're like, well, this is ludicrous, and I cannot believe a whole society just one way or another moves around these types of by my opinion, dogmas, and I think it's always something to kind of like not fall yourself into it. But when you don't feel that, I guess when everything just kind of seems to be okay in general, and then this type of situation happens to me, I did felt depressed. When the police was called, my wife, she struggles with borderline personality disorder, and that this definitely led her to a breakdown. And it was not easy, for me to be managing someone with panic attacks and whatnot, and then with the situation here, it was a very sad, stressful environment for me at a personal level. Especially when nothing made sense, when things are not making sense. I can recognize when I do things that demand some form of reprimand. I truly do. I've learned from my lessons as a human being, and this was one that definitely there was nothing to reflect upon, nothing to really grow from. It was just like, I had to be sharp and think about what to do and who to write, and how to really manage the situation properly in order for my character to not end up, step by the community, or for me to be thought of as someone who would just, like put the kids in these uncomfortable situations for my own self realization, not self, like, what would that be, like self-approval, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's, I don't know. It's a tough situation to be in, and I think you explain it well, and I appreciate you and kind of sharing your mindset with us.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm being long-winded.
Oh no, absolutely no. I really think that people want to hear from you, because, this is a situation that I think every art teacher fears, like they don't want to be put in the position that you're in. And so I think it's important that we talk about all of this. But I just have one last question for you. I know you've reached a settlement with the district at this point, and I know you can't really talk about it, but, can I ask where you do go from here? Like, I know there's not anything that anyone can do to get your job back, but is there any other way that art teachers can help you or support you at this point?
Yeah, there has been plenty of offers when it comes to like, hey, we want to get you a job, at a place that that you're more accepted, for sure. And I'm looking forward to see what could happen with that. Then again, as an artist, also, it's good to understand that my work is what kind of keeps me afloat. The fact that I can always be doing something and selling it, or working at festivals or different commercial venues where they want murals or things like that, and that in a sense has become a source of revenue for me too. Again, not much, but especially here in the Valley, but enough. I'm a person of simple means when it really comes to it, and I understand from a lot of the public opinion that this could be something that would allow me to sue the district and come out with a huge chunk of money. But to an extent, I also feel that that would be dishonest with myself. I just want what it was fair for me, and I know that that sounds a little bit like, well, you're dumb because you can make money and still do things and be okay with yourself. But I understand that the people from the district, either for protocolary reasons or whatnot, they also are people with families who have their lives, and this has been a very stressful thing for me in general, and going into more like legal matters. These are things that could last for years before something is really settled, and I don't want that. Again, my goal here is to be capable of be perceived as the person who I have worked myself, to become, and not something else. And I think that was the real end goal from my end. Again, I think if I'm gonna make money, I should do it in a honorable way, and just have what I earn and what I deserve through my work, and not through these types of chicaneries. Because even though it affected me psychologically, I feel that it affected more, other people, and I don't want to really use that as a card, for example, to make money. It's not who I am.
No, that's very fair. And I think it's great for everybody to be able to hear that, you are in a good place and you know exactly where you want to be and where you want to go to move on from here. So we'll go ahead and wrap it up there. But Mateo, thank you so much for coming on, talking to me, telling us the whole situation, the whole story. And I know a lot of people are going to be eager to hear this. So thank you.
Yeah, of course, Tim. And thank you for listening to something and wanting to get something more compelling than just the sensation, the controversy, like it's always important to understand that people, the character of the people who were involved in this matter, have it makes sense, for people to kind of address themselves that way. Like, I wonder about the opinion of the parents. And I do sometimes want to know what they think, because I really care about their kids. I truly do. And if I, one way or another, led them to think that I belittle their kids or that I hurt their feelings, well, I would never have intended to do that. Definitely, I had to address a situation with maturity, and that demanded me to, speak with authority, but never to treat the kids in a bad way. I am someone who's very genuine, and that was why my class was so successful, and that's why I have such good credentials when it comes to being a elementary art teacher. A lot of commendations and whatnot. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you, and hopefully we will talk to you again soon. So yeah, thanks for coming on.
Absolutely.
It's obvious to me that Mateo is a passionate, dedicated teacher and someone who cares about the kids in his classroom. I appreciate him coming on the show, and I really appreciate him being so honest, so open, and so willing to tell his story. Now, I wouldn't wish Mateo's situation on anyone, and honestly, it should never happen to anyone again. At the very least, I hope it can be kind of a cautionary tale so we can avoid these kind of terrible situations in the future. And I won't get on my soapbox and rant, because it isn't the time or the place to do that, but I do need to say something here. Because as teachers, we are highly educated, highly trained professionals who need to have autonomy over our own classrooms. We deserve to have the trust of our administrators. We deserve to have their support. Our principals and our administrators need to be able to say no to parents, and they need to be able to say that they trust their teachers to know what's best for their students and what's best for those classrooms. Because when administrators can't do that, you see what happens. It costs the school, it costs the district, it costs the teacher, and it costs the kids, because they no longer have a teacher that they love. And there's no honest explanation for them as to why that is. Art Ed Radio is produced by The Art of Education with audio engineering from Michael Crocker. If you're new to The Art of Ed, check out all of our amazing content at theartofed.com. If you are new to the podcast, please subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts, and know that you can sign up for our email list at artedradio.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back with our next episode next Tuesday. Talk to you then.